Panel of speakers, I'd like to remind everyone that we have a translation into Russian and Kazakh. Today's session is focused on exploring international programs and initiatives aimed at closing gender gaps and accelerating women's economic empowerment. One of such examples is World Economic Forum's Gender Parity Accelerator, but today we will learn about a lot more programs and opportunities available. Let me introduce quickly our speakers. So we have from Kazakhstan side Deputy Chair of the National Commission for Women's Affairs, Family and Demographic Policy under the President, Ms. Lizat Ramazanova. We will have online joining us representatives of the World Economic Forum, Ms. Saria Zahiri. And we also have here with us the UN Women representative to Kazakhstan, Ms. Maria Detsenko. Managing Director for Central Asia representing EBRD, Ms. Zhuzhanna Hargitai. And the Vice President for Advisor Services CIS region at MasterCard, Ms. Yasin Unal Ilmaz. With that, I would like to invite to open our today's session with the welcome remarks, the Deputy Chair of the National Commission, Ms. Lizat Ramazanova. Please.
Dear ladies and gentlemen, it is my pleasure to greet all the speakers and participants joined us today. While political and economic reforms at the head of ongoing transformation in Kazakhstan, social reforms are no less significant, especially as they directly impact people's lives. As the Deputy Chair of National Commission for Women Affairs and Family and Demographic Policy, we have focused on promoting and protecting gender equality and better opportunities for women in business and society. Our country was the first in its region establish a national entity to promote gender equality, the National Commission on Women Affairs, Family and Demographic Policy. Last year, Kazakhstan ranked number 65 among 146 countries in the World Economic Forum's Gender Gap report, in an improvement of 15% position compared to 2021. Significant progress was made in the economic participant and opportunity section, where Kazakhstan jumped from the 47th to 99th. We see it's a median result following joining the World Economic Forum's Gender Parity Accelerator in 2021. Women's entrepreneurship is one of the core directions which more women can gain prominent leaderships in business sector. One significant achievement in promoting women's leaderships is the establishment of 20 centers for development of women's entrepreneurships across all regions of Kazakhstan. This initiative is a result of collaboration between the Ministry of National Economy, the National Commission on Women Affairs, Family and Demographic Policy, and the National Chamber of Entrepreneurs, Atamikin, with support from Asian Development Bank and United Nations Development Program in Kazakhstan. These centers play a crucial role in providing support to women entrepreneurs by ensuring equal access to projects financing, organizing educational events and seminars, and offering assistance in implementing business projects. By providing these resources and opportunities, Kazakhstan is working toward empowering women to succeed in business world. Women's equal participation and leadership in political and public life are crucial for achieving a more inclusive society, equal rights. When women are given equal opportunities to participate in decision-making processes and hold leadership positions. It brings different experience and skills to the table. Recognizing this, President Tokayev introduced amendments mandating a 30% quota for women and youth in parliament, effectively addressing the political gender gap. This commitment demonstrates our determination to foster an inclusive political environment that reflects the diversity of our country. Developing women's leadership is one of the core priorities in our policy. To support the realization of these targets, the Samruk-Kazna Fund has taken proactive steps by implementing a modular training program called Gender Equality. This program was developed in response to the instruction of the President of the Republic of Kazakhstan. Looking ahead, the target for 2030 is even more ambitious, with a goal of achieving a 30% representation women in the leadership roles. Sorry, my voice. Another exemplary initiative that included different stakeholders is One Village, One Product. Main task of the project is connect women entrepreneurs in the agriculture sphere in order to create unique goods that have market appeal. Kazakhstan has always positioned itself as responsible and active participant in gender initiatives led by international organizations, including one of the key driving forces to see more in senior leadership and decision-making roles. The government supports programs that promote economic empowerment of women entrepreneurs, such as the partnership with the European Bank for Reconstruction and Development. In terms of financing and advisory, support for women's businesses is instrumental in promoting women's leadership and empowerment. The EBRD's Women in Business program plays a significant role by facilitating access to financing for women-led small and medium enterprises through credit lines offered by local banks. Another example is the joint program of MasterCard and Ministry of Trade and Integration of Kazakhstan, equipped over 2,000 small, medium enterprises with skills to launch and scale their businesses online. We are also actively cooperating with international organizations, including the United Nations. Our country took several important steps in addressing gender equality. We joined the Generation Equality Forum's action coalitions on gender-based violence and economic justice and rights, adopted the National Action Plan for UN Security Council resolution on women, peace and security, and we terminated the list of 191 professions previously reserved for men. We continue collaborating with UN Women to address women's economic empowerment and broader representation at the decision-making level. In conclusion, I would like to express my gratitude to all the participants and partners that have joined us today. It is crucial for governments, organizations, and communities to prioritize and invest in initiatives that accelerate gender equality and empower persons recognizing the significant social and economic returns that such investment brings. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Lizat Ramazanova. It's evident there are many, many state programs and initiatives that are also supported by the international community and private sector companies to close gender gaps, advance gender equality in Kazakhstan and the broader region. As was just mentioned, according to the World Economic Forum's Global Gender Gap, Kazakhstan's ranking has improved significantly just in 2022. And with that, I would like to introduce the video recording of the World Economic Forum welcoming the participants of today's sessions.
On behalf of the World Economic Forum, it is my honor to congratulate you on the Closing the Gender Gap Accelerator in Kazakhstan. In particular, I would like to thank the National Commission for Women, Family and Demographic Policy, the Agency for Strategic Planning and Reforms, the Ministry of the National Economy, and Astana International Financial Center Authority on the great progress that has already been made in the Gender Parity Accelerator, the first such accelerator in Central Asia. We know that women have been particularly affected by the crises of recent years, and in particular the pandemic. Already it was going to take 100 years to get to parity, which is simply too long. But during these recent years, that gap has opened further, and it would take 136 years to get to parity. And that is simply not acceptable, not good for our economies, for our workforces, for our societies. And that is exactly why the accelerator model and the work that you are doing today is so critical to progress. At the World Economic Forum, we believe in the power of public-private collaboration and the impact that the accelerators can achieve by committing leaders, changing policies, and changing norms related to women's workforce participation. I would like to commend and thank all of the companies that are gathered today for joining the accelerator and for committing to closing gender gaps in their workforce, in their leadership, and in remuneration. We hope that this is just the beginning and that in the coming months we will see many more companies joining the accelerator to close gender gaps in Kazakhstan. Thank you again and congratulations on your work. On behalf of
Wonderful. World Economic Forum's Gender Gap Accelerator is just one example here in Kazakhstan, what Kazakhstan has been working on for the last couple of years. But the program that I would like to highlight and note specifically is the Women in Business program initiated and run by the European Bank for Reconstruction and Development, which has been instrumental in fostering a network of women entrepreneurs in the region. Kazakhstan has enjoyed its impact, and we had many collaborations with this program. And with that, I would like to invite Ms. Zhizhana Hargitai, Managing Director, Central Asia from EBRD, to share insights about this program and opportunities that EBRD does in the region.
Thank you very much. A very good afternoon to all ladies, and especially to the very few gentlemen who joined us in this dialogue. And we very much hope that there will be next time, I think we have to introduce that each man has to bring another one with them so that our voice is heard a bit more across. A couple of words before I attack women in business, because again, we can talk a lot about the difficulties that women businesses face in accessing finance. Our IFC colleagues argue there is $5.6 billion missing in financing for women businesses. And we have had already the first generation, I should think, of Women in Business program. We work through whom we call partner financial institutions, that they need some encouragement, as if they thought at the beginning that women businesses were a bit more risky. Their problem. We could provide some first-class guarantees, but the most important thing are twofold. Number one, not only do women, and as Kazakh colleagues would agree with me, 77% of women-led businesses are micro businesses. So by definition, they are higher risk, let's face it, I mean, from a financial point of view, but they do benefit either from tailor-made advice or training programs. So again, and that is funded by the government of Kazakhstan. We are just implementing it, again, whether for individual companies if they are larger, or training programs. COVID has helped with the digitalization of the mass rollout of training programs. And we continue. Now, what would be new? So two things. Number one, Madina Abulkasimova already mentioned that they are working on ESG for all the banking sector, financial sector. So where we came in to join their work, which they are carrying out with ADB, we want to smuggle in the gender angle in particular, so that not only financial institutions will apply the principles of environmental social governance standards, but they would have a gender focus, and this is something that in the new generation of our Women in Business credit lines, not only do we focus on the women entrepreneurs through the credit lines, but on how financial institutions, including their own funding, deal with the gender component. Now, this takes me back to what EBRD does beyond Women in Business. Because what we say, I've got a gender target, okay? So without targets, I don't work. Without targets, I don't get my bonus. So one of my targets is the so-called gender component in investment projects. And this is not just Women in Business. So I was delighted to meet today one of the companies that we selected in Kazakhstan for under the program, what we call Star Ventures. Yes, it's a male-led company, but what they do, and they are beautiful, they are a software company. And what they do in Almaty, Astana, and expanding, they are managing a fleet of, shall we call it marshrutka? So whatever, these are buses that deliver people to their workplace and back, but also to the training academies. Probably many of us have faced the logistics parents. Yeah, the working parents providing logistics for their children. So they do it, 75%, it's private sector, it's paid by employees, and it takes care of women getting safely and still with our makeup on to work without actually impacting too much on environment and back home, taking care of kids after school activities and transport. So these are small things that help, I think, us and also our better halves, whoever has one, also to focus on what we would like to do, our ambitions to work and be there. So a lot of these things is that we embed in our investments. So nowadays, if we finance project number 13 with Masdar, I mean, you probably know the name, major investor in renewable energy, they already know that they have to have the gender component. Whether in Uzbekistan or hopefully soon in Kazakhstan. So again, they will go out, they will find the girls whom they could improve, they could offer internship with. So with every investment possible, it's not yet every investment. Last year we achieved that by number of projects, and we did, how many did I do? Around 90 projects, 40 of them had this gender component beyond the Women in Business credit lines. Because, unless panelists strongly disagree with me, it's great to have the Women in Business credit lines, but we need to start at least I cannot start below, you can at least at high schools. With our private sector clients, and I hope Samruk Kazina we can convince as well, go to high schools, offer the jobs to boys and girls equally, get inspirational, then offer the internship and make sure that actively, it's not just by application, go boys and girls, they get the scholarship also at university. And before we meet the quota in senior leadership, I would like to see at least in workforce also increased number of girls, and then mid-management, because then the quota for the senior leader, then we can get there, no? So a lot of these aspects is what we try to do. You may call it, it's a bit artisanal approach, but beyond, again, I repeat, the Women in Business, the other bit is what we can do through any other investment project, and this is what we teamed up with the Regulatory Agency for Financial Markets, so that many other financial institutions have this so-called gender component in their projects. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Zhuzhana. And there are actually some senior executives from the private sector joining us in the audience today, so I hope they get inspired, take the actions, and implement what you just recommended in their company policies following this session. This brings me to our next speaker, Ms. Maria Datsenko, who is the representative of the UN Women to Kazakhstan. UN Women is known and is biggest champion for for gender equality, not just in Kazakhstan but around the world. And there are just so many different programs and opportunities that they do. So with that, one of the examples is the Women Entrepreneurship Development Centers that actually a lot of the women that just came today in the audience from the regions have gone to enjoy their programs, the mentorship opportunities, the trainings that, for instance, Zhuzhana just mentioned as well. And so there's also the program which the accelerator model cooperative, which is called the Women Empowerment Principles, which I invite our audience to also learn about. So with that, could you please tell us more about some of these programs, but also any other programs and initiatives that you do here? Thank you.
Thank you for inviting us to this important session on gender parity and women empowerment principles. Yes, these are principles which were developed together by UN Women and UN Global Compact in 2010. And the principles are a guidance to businesses how to ensure that women are empowered and supported by businesses within the company itself, in the marketplace, and to have strong advocacy with the clients and others. So the principles, you can read more about the principles on their website, webs.org. And I would like to invite my colleague Dinara, whom you can, to stand up, please, Dinara. And Dinara will be very happy to brief you, dear business representatives, how your companies could join these principles. These principles, there are key 7 principles. First is that the leadership ensures that women are supported and promoted and have equal opportunity to achieve also leadership, to get to the leadership position. These principles also about ensuring equal opportunities for women to study and get trainings while they're employed. These are also principles which are ensuring that women have equal access to health care and protected against violence and harassment in the world of work. And in this regards, I would like to ask you to pay attention to the new ILO convention. ILO is International Labour Organization Convention 190 on the prevention of harassment and violence in the world of work. And I'm very pleased that Kazakhstan government, together with support of UN Women, conducted research in Kazakhstan on the situation, and the findings of the research put a ground for the steps to be taken and consider to justify the ratification by Kazakhstan. And Kazakhstan, if ratifies the convention, will be the first country in Asia to ratify this important convention. Other principles is it's to promote gender-sensitive procurement and to work more with the companies run by women, and also collection of gender disaggregated data within the company and within the clients, because on this analysis and usage of this data will further lead promotion of women. And I'm also pleased to congratulate Kazakhstan businesses, because Kazakhstan is leading in Central Asia, having 45 companies signing these principles. And some of these companies are huge, big companies, leaders of the markets, and many companies are small companies. But I would like to name just a few. It's Gazpochta, it's Bayterek, and its other companies. It's Schneider Electric, it's Avon, and many, many others. And what is important that these principles are not just signed on paper, and that actually the signature doesn't require any financial or legal commitments, but they are really implemented in reality. And I would be really happy to see more men here, among even speakers as well, who could highlight how these companies run by men are implementing these principles. And also I would like to highlight our appreciation to the hard work of Madame Ramazanova, who was actually driving engine to set up the 17 centers around the countries which are supporting women businesses.
20 centers.
Oh, now it's 20, yes, 17 the last years. Now it's 20. And yes, I would like to highlight also our appreciations to our partners. It's EBRD, it's Asia Development Bank and UNDP, and to the Ministry of Labor and Atomican National Chamber of Commerce for setting up the centers. And I'm sure that among this, our audience, we have one of these 30,000 women who received support from these centers last year. Yeah. Yes. And speaking about women empowerment, economic empowerment, is impossible without ensuring that women are safe and have safe and secure life in the office, but also at home. I want to talk about gender-based violence, domestic violence. This is a serious problem, not just for Central Asia, but also globally. As we know, one of the 3 women is during their lifetime experienced any type of violence or harassment. And different governments, different countries do a lot to address this issue. However, unfortunately, a lot of work still should continue. And it's not just legislation improvements, it's not just criminalization of domestic violence, but it's also proper implementation of existing legislation, well-coordinated, multi-sectoral approach by the officials and by all other civil society, psychologists, social workers who are well-trained and have adequate finances and human resources available to do work in this area. And I would like to announce here a recent initiative to establish alliance of Central Asian countries to address gender-based violence. This initiative is going to be launched actually in 2 weeks on 27th of June in Almaty by all these Central Asian countries with the strong support of UN and European Union. Establishment of this alliance is a key result of the Spotlight Regional Initiative for Central Asia and Afghanistan, which is implemented in partnership with European Union by UN and with the strong financial support of European Union. And I am sure that this alliance would be instrumental and sustainable platform where all engaged in addressing gender-based violence can exchange experience, exchange knowledge products and best practices to fight the violence and ensure that our world is safer for all women, for all girls of Central Asia. And that's again an opportunity for Central Asia to be a great example for the whole world, how together we can work to address gender-based violence and prevent it.
Thank you, Maria, and congratulations on the news and the announcement today. Thank you. All our speakers today just mentioned different cases from the private sector companies. And with that, that brings me to our speaker representing actually the leadership of the private sector company, the MasterCard, who is actually one of the sponsors and supporters for the exhibition that we have as you just enter the building on the women empowerment. So I'd invite all of you to check it out after our session. Ms. Yasin Onal Yilmaz has over 16 years of experience in the senior management. And with that, I would like to ask you, dear Yasin, please share with us the impact that you see in commitment to gender equality in MasterCard that is doing to accelerate gender parity. I know that you guys run the wonderful e-commerce program, which had amazing results and impact on the Kazakh women. So with that, please share with us some impact cases, maybe, and examples.
Sure. Hi everyone, thanks for hosting me today. So it's a pleasure to be here and hearing all the good stories that has been done for Kazakhstan. I would like to show you the part that we are taking as a private company. Well, gender parity has been a long matter of discussion. And so far still we have the significant gap. And this has both social and economical implications. We are a company committed to accelerate gender equity, and also we are a company committed to the digital economy as well. So when we see that women who are representing 50% of the world population, contributing to only 30% of the GDP that is generating, this looks like a huge potential loss. So to close the gaps, there were some initiatives that we already spoke today, like increasing the women participation in labor, like making education accessible for them, investing in care business, which is generally led by the women, and supporting women-led organizations. These are just a couple of them. There are a lot of things to do. And in MasterCard, we are kind of truly committed to rethink the ways that we can support women rising. Gender parity is part of it, but we just are focused on how we can ensure the women rise in every industry, in every country globally. We have an ambition to be the employer brand of choice for women all over the world. We started working internally first. So in the company, more than 39% of the global workforce is coming from women. We have 1/3 of our vice presidents represented by women, similar reflection in the board of directors. But internally, we are not just waiting from a top-down approach to make sure that gender parity is there. We have a lot of communities, locally and globally, a lot of initiatives to drive that change within the company itself. We empower women with global initiatives. One of them is Girls for Tech. You know, between the age of 10 and 8, I think, the girls are losing their attention to STEM facilities. This is where we started losing them. So we designed a program that will inspire the girls to build their digital skills starting from that age. And this is a STEM education program. So far, 3 million girls around from 60 different countries contribute to this program. We continue to do so because in approaching the gender parity, we have this cradle to grave approach. We should start from the early stages so that we can make sure that the leaders of the next generation will start to educate themselves. The second one is about relaunch your career. So from different reasons, there are a lot of women who are left out of the labor force because of extended maternity leave, childcare. There could be a couple of reasons. So in MasterCard, we have this career break program for women who would like to come back to work and become a part of the labor force. We try to make it easier for them to join back with easy start, and then they can continue to do so if they feel confident. And the third one is the Women Leadership Network that we have internally. It's a global community that unlocks the career potential in the company for women leaders so that in the near term we can really accelerate the gender parity. These are some of the initiatives, but more importantly, we partnered with governments, associations, different communities so that we can create a bigger scale impact when it comes to gender parity. School of E-commerce was one of them. Mrs. Ramazanova already mentioned about that one. This has been implementation since 2022 with Ministry of Trade and Integration of Kazakhstan. The purpose is to train SMEs in Kazakhstan so that they can run an online business, open their stores, sell different goods, connect to online payments, be aware of the cyber security and threats, develop targeted audience, and also manage their social media to attract the relevant audience. So with this program, we are proud to say that from each and every region of Kazakhstan, we had a really good audience. We were able to include more than 2,000 SMEs. Afterwards, 20 of them were involved in the accelerator program, which they had more dedicated attention when it comes to their business cases and improvement of their business aspects. So the purpose was to get digital and get paid for their services. It was a very influential one with a high social impact. And I think as private sector representatives, we need to expand such services so that we can create something beyond creating the impact of the women in business in our own companies only. Thank you.
This reminds me that Yasin, she has joined us flying today from Turkey. And EBRD's Women in Business program actually started from Turkey. And it showcased that women are better than men at repaying loans and encouraged private sector banks to have some similar programs. So, dear Zhuzhana, do you think that could be an example and role model for Kazakhstan as well?
In terms of Women in Business program, yes, I jokingly mentioned that we started with what we call first loss risk cover, so that the banks, they feel less hesitant to lend to women entrepreneurs. What we would like to see it coming, we use this first loss guarantee, but we would be attacking now youth in business, and there will be young women entrepreneurs as well. But continuing further the Women in Business program, what we would like to do is to use not first loss guarantee, but a bit of incentive grant, because it would be women digitalizing. So it would be a lot of training there, but also investment to an extent digital economy requires also, so that it's a top-up. The banks, they seem to have understood in Kazakhstan that actually they are buying good risk. So doing the Women in Business program, it's not still major in their portfolio, but basically they are making profit because less provisioning is required for the loans that they lend to women in business. So this is something of a tweak, focus on young entrepreneurs, because this is where it's just higher risk by definition, and continue with the Women in Business program with the digitalization bonus, what we call it, so that it increasingly uses digital technologies, whether in production, service provision, or just for the processes. These are the two things we are coming with, and of course skills and skills and skills that we would like to develop further with the government of Kazakhstan, including the latest, probably sexiest trade we are trying to develop the standards for is for cybersecurity and women in cybersecurity. I know it's a niche, but we want to show that, again, what we fought for together with the Ministry of Labor and others, that no job is prohibited for women. Now show it exactly between mining and renewables and cybersecurity. What is it that can be aspired for, setting the standards, but enabling women to choose these professions as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing this. And dear Maria, I have a follow-up question for you actually. Are there any maybe impact and particular success stories that you have seen coming from the National New Entrepreneurship Center's work? Maybe some women entrepreneurs that you have met already that have gone through the training, the mentorship opportunities that you just talked about?
Thank you. It's a good question. Actually, there are quite a lot of stories of success which led to Kazakhstan having 29th place among 146 countries on gender gaps index in the area of economic empowerment of women last year, this global World Economic Forum index. That's a big success, which also these 20 centers contributed to. And not only. Recently, with the support of the Ministry of Information and the National Commission, we conducted a series of trainings for women entrepreneurs in oblasts, in provinces of Kazakhstan, and they were dedicated to the production of cheese. So women were learning how to make cheeses and also how to make souvenirs, yes. And I bought myself cheese from this women, fantastic cheese. I would invite you to taste it. It's yes. Okay, excellent. You see, live unpaid advertisement. This is one success, but what is important to address strategically and systematically the promotion of gender equality, and what is important to work together on the addressing stereotype and negative patriarchal norms, which unfortunately exist not only in Central Asia but in many countries, actually in all countries of the world. And very important is, I think in this area, our project again with Ministry of Information, where we are planning to introduce gender studies master course for universities, and also mandatory gender studies course for all other specialities. So it doesn't matter if it's a mathematician or engineer or a painter, they all need to know what is gender equality and how to ensure gender equality and empowerment of women in whatever their jobs they are planning to have and whatever their careers will have. So this, I think, will have very positive impact on the gender equality in the society and empowerment of women. And again, very important to work with boys, with men, with teenagers, and starting working as early as possible from kindergartens to influence and to bring these positive changes to the lives of every girl, every boy, from the childhood to every family, not only on the national centers, but also in provinces, in rural areas. That's very important. And also very important is the initiative gender responsive budgeting and gender responsive planning. It's not only enough to institutionalize it, but it's very important to ensure regular trainings and capacity building of all those who are engaged in the implementation of it. So if we are building a school, it's very important to ensure that there is a sport hall for boys to play football, but also for girls to take gymnastic classes, for example, and to ensure that the lighting is appropriate on the roads which we are building, or the toilets, the facilities for children are there if it's again infrastructure. So this is very important to ensure. And again, talking about strategic level, what we are advocating for to establishment of gender equality ministries, or at least increasing the status of national commissions, and to ensure that they have adequate, sustainable financial and human resources and very strong decision-making power position to really influence on gender mainstreaming in countries. Also, we are promoting the establishment of vice ministers in every ministry who will deal with gender equality issues, to ensure that all policies, all strategies, all documents which are going through the ministry are screened to ensure that gender is mainstreamed in the ministry. And it's not on, yes, it's a dream, but everything starts with a dream. And again, it's not on the level of national ministries, but it's also important to ensure the same gender equality advisors with decision-making positions on all akimats, on all oblast and rural level governments. And very important, again, to work also with gender equality with women's civil society organizations who are trying to promote women's rights, not only in big cities, but also in provincial and rural areas. What is, again, very important to ensure gender quotas for women on decision-making positions, at least 30%. And also to ensure that these women are properly trained and there is a pool of qualified women to take these positions, again, not only on national, but also on provincial and rural levels. Also very important, a quota, at least 30% for political parties to ensure that women are on the top of the list and are present adequately in the parliaments and senates. And also it's time to consider of establishment of women's fractions or committees in parliaments. And if it's called gender or women's committee, it doesn't mean that there are just women. Men also should be equally presented there, and also we'll be happy to have men more here. We, in this area, one of our projects, again, together with the National Commission for Women, Family and Demographic Policy under the President of Kazakhstan and the Ministry of Information, in November we trained trainers who went to the oblast and trained women to be able to run for the elected positions. And we are pleased to know that some of these women were elected to maslihats. And we very much hope that more women would be trained, and we will see more women in the parliaments and in the local maslihats, and also more women in akimats on high-level positions. Digitalization, cyberspace, it has very strong impact on women, and not only in the area of safety of women in the digital sphere, but again, women gender dimension should be taken into account when different digitalization projects are developed. And also, I like that the head of UNESCO yesterday was speaking about gender dimension of artificial intelligence and ethic principles. It's a long discussions ahead of us in this area, but it's important to ensure that gender dimension is there mentioned. And last but not least, unpaid care work. The numbers really are interesting. I will not name the country, but in one of the countries is extreme situation. Women spend every day 6 hours and men spend 52 minutes on unpaid care work at home. Is this gender parity? Not. So, and there was an interesting case in 1975 in Iceland. 90% of women for one day stopped doing their unpaid care work at home. It means they stopped taking care of children, they stopped cleaning, they stopped cooking food, ironing men's shirts, etc. So the society, the whole nation was like stopped. Men were not able to go to work because the children were screaming, the children were hungry, someone has to bring children to kindergarten, and some of these men even did not know where is kindergarten. So that was very serious example actually, and the government, after that legislation was changed. And Iceland now is one of the countries where women are almost have like most parity in the workplace. So women, the situation changed. So this is again, but very important to ensure that there is legislation which is covering unpaid work. And unpaid work only in USA, for example, before COVID, it was costing $11 trillion according to Oxfam calculation. And this is this exceeds the revenue of more 50 top world companies. This amount. Imagine if the women would be paid for doing this work. Yeah. So, few points which I wanted to say, and also I would like to, what Madame Ramazanova mentioned, Generation Equality Forum Action Coalitions. And Kazakhstan joined two of these coalitions. One is gender-based violence, second is economic rights and justice. And these coalitions, work in these coalitions, commitments which a country took on it to implement, one of them, these 20 centers to support women entrepreneurs. But again, anyone is welcome to join coalitions, to announce your commitments, because you do a lot, I'm sure, especially those who are sitting here in this hall. And this is opportunity for you to exchange your experiences with others, because there are a lot of practices which you have, but also it's opportunity to learn from others. And it's again, our work in these action coalitions and other work which is done by countries has influence on the indexes, gender equality indexes, global indexes of these countries, and ratings, positive ratings of these indexes also helps countries to attract more investment. And attracting more investment, again, influence social economic situation of country, of families, and of individuals. So this, again, opportunity for all of us to consider. Thank you.
Thank you, Maria. Thank you for all the work you do, but also for highlighting such huge numbers and the gaps that exist. So I hope that inspires the businesses in the audience today. This brings me to, again, the MasterCard's case in Yusin. Unfortunately, Zsuzsanna had to leave us for some meeting with the president, but Yusin is here with us, and MasterCard has signed during EBRD's annual meeting some partnership agreements with them. And so I'd like to ask you to share with the audience today what that entails and what are the gender elements in that program.
Thank you. So as MasterCard, we had a worldwide commitment for financial inclusion. We have a direct pledge in our investor reports which says that we would be bringing at least 1 billion people and 50 million micro and small businesses to the digital economy by 2025. When such a target is written everywhere, it becomes part of your daily business. Each and every employee, more than 20,000 employee in MasterCard, is thinking of this target in each product we develop, in each implementation we do, in each consultancy we complement. And there's a direct focus within this umbrella target that we will be investing in more than 25 million women entrepreneurs. We have a MasterCard Center of Inclusion Growth, and this is really a social arm of MasterCard who is working towards this ambition, dedicated towards this ambition. And there is this global initiative called Strive. Under Strive, we would like to help micro and small enterprises to build their business, optimize their business, access to digital tools, and gain and use financials. As mentioned, we recently signed a memorandum of understanding with EBRD, and we would like to further explore the opportunities of collaborations in Central Asia. We see that, especially after the pandemic, the entrepreneurship in the region is growing dramatically, and like the biggest barrier among this entrepreneurship spirit is the accessing to capital that they need in a fair way, in a transparent way, and an easy way. I know this because I used to work as a credit risk manager, so I know how we just generally assess the newly established companies or so. But the thing is, the world is changing. The business that we perceive is changing. In 10 years, and it already started, our kids won't be looking for banks to work for, government institutions to work for. They would like to establish their own businesses. They would like to become a part of e-com giants or technology giants. So it's kind of important that all the fintechs that will drive the growth in the economy is fueled by those credit line services. That's why our mission, together with EBRD, is to strengthen the credit profiles of companies to make sure that they have access to credit so that we can have more resilient and sustainable economic growth. For the moment, this program will focus on more than 240 small and micro companies in the region, starting from Kazakhstan and Uzbekistan. And we hope to unlock their access to the credits, and so that they can come up with a more predictable future in terms of building their existing business and growing that business. This is going to be like a pilot in the region. If everything goes well, it will be extended in the region. We hope to have really good results. We are fully aware that as a private company, we are just one entity who is kind of supporting small and business, but it's really obvious. There are a lot of like initiatives in the region with UN, with EBRD, with the support of government towards this motivation. And that's why I think partnering up, sharing our experiences, working together will make the difference going forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Yasin. I think the partnerships part resonates with everyone in today's audience, and we just saw today from our speakers that they already have between themselves different partnerships and programs that they run together. And this brings me to the most fun and interesting part of today's session. We will announce some of the private sector companies, the leaders such as MasterCard, that are joining today the World Economic Forum's Gender Parity Accelerator, and we have their leadership, which we would like to ask to join us on stage. And so I'm pleased to announce that today, with today's session, we announced that the WAPTEC Corporation, and we have Gani Dusenova here with us, joining the World Economic Forum Gender Parity Accelerator. We also have Timur Zhumartovich Karabayev joining us today from the PTC Holding. We have Tilimis Sadykovich from Kazakh Oil. And we have the CEO of TVKN Media, of TVKN Holding today with us as well. I ask the speakers to join the companies. I want to again to congratulate all these companies. They are exemplary cases, and so they will be joining the global network of the World Economic Forum's program. And so they'll get the access to all the resources, the networks, and opportunities. And again, thank you all for joining us today. I hope you enjoyed today's discussion. With that, I would like to remind you again that we have an exposition at the entrance to the Congress Center, supported by the companies such as MasterCard and Coca-Cola, and I invite you all to check it out. Please. Thank you.